The late afternoon sun bled across the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of crimson and gold as Adrian's sleek black car sped down the long, empty highway. Inside, the air was tense, heavy with the silence that had grown between husband and wife. Emma sat in the passenger seat, her hands resting protectively on her swollen belly, her heart beating in rhythm with the tiny kicks of the life within her. She was 8 months pregnant, exhausted, and quietly hoping her husband might notice the discomfort she felt. Her swollen ankles, the way her back ached. The constant need to breathe deeply just to calm the weight pressing against her ribs. But Adrian didn't look at her. His eyes were fixed on the road, his jaw tight, his expression unreadable. He wore his expensive tailored shirt like armor, and his perfectly styled hair glistened under the fading light. Emma, in her simple maternity dress, felt like a shadow beside him. Once, she had believed he loved her. Once, he had promised to be her rock, her forever. But ever since her pregnancy, Adrian had grown cold. He complained about her mood swings, her body changes, and the way she slowed him down. As the car approached a remote gas station, its neon lights flickering against the dusk, Adrian abruptly pulled in. The tires crunched against the gravel, and Emma's brows furrowed in confusion. "Why are we stopping here?" she asked softly, her voice tired but laced with hope. Maybe he would get her something to eat, maybe he had finally noticed how drained she was. Adrian didn't answer right away. He parked the car near the pump, stepped out briskly, and walked around to her side. He opened the door with a forced smile. "Get out for a minute. Stretch your legs," he said coolly. Emma hesitated. Something in his tone felt strange, hollow. "Adrian, I'm fine, I'd rather just sit." "Emma," he interrupted sharply, his smile twisting into irritation, "just get out. Trust me. It'll do you good." Confused but obedient, she slowly shifted her heavy body out of the car, one hand bracing her stomach, the other gripping the door. The cool evening air brushed against her flushed cheeks, and she inhaled deeply, unaware that her life was about to change in the cruelest way. She turned toward him, about to ask if he wanted something from the small station store, when she heard the slam of the car door. Her heart jolted. Adrian slid back into the driver's seat, his eyes avoiding hers. "Adrian, what are you doing?" The engine roared to life. Panic surged through her veins as she stepped forward, clutching her belly.
"Adrian? Stop!"
"Where are you going?" Her voice cracked, desperation bleeding through every syllable. For a fleeting moment, their eyes met through the window. His gaze was cold, detached, like she was nothing more than a burden he had finally shrugged off. And then, with a sudden screech of tires, he sped off, leaving Emma in a cloud of dust and disbelief. Her breath caught in her throat. Her legs wobbled, nearly giving way under the weight of her belly. She stumbled forward a few steps onto the gravel road, waving her arms uselessly as the car disappeared into the horizon, its taillights shrinking into the twilight until they were gone. "Adrian, please," she cried, her voice echoing into the emptiness. But the only reply was the hollow whisper of the wind. Emma stood frozen, her chest heaving. She felt the baby kick inside her, as if sensing her fear, her abandonment. Tears blurred her vision, and her trembling hands clutched her belly protectively. "It's okay, sweetheart," she whispered shakily, her words breaking. "Mommy's still here." The neon lights of the gas station buzzed faintly behind her. Slowly, she turned, her heart pounding. A few yards away, an elderly gas station attendant, his face lined with years of labor and hardship, had stopped wiping down the pump, and was staring at her with wide, stunned eyes. He had seen everything. "Mom, are you okay?" he asked gently, his voice thick with concern. Emma tried to answer but her lips trembled, her throat dry. She shook her head instead, a sob escaping her chest. "Hey, he left me." Her knees buckled, and she gripped the side of the car pump for balance. The old man rushed forward, steadying her with surprisingly strong hands. "Easy now, don't push yourself. You're far along, aren't you?" "8 months," she whispered, her voice cracking. Her gaze darted toward the empty road, still half expecting Adrian to return. But deep down, she knew he wouldn't. The cold finality in his eyes told her everything. The attendant guided her toward the small bench outside the station's office. Emma lowered herself carefully, cradling her stomach as tears spilled down her cheeks. Each sob felt like it tore her apart, not just as a wife, but as a mother who had been betrayed before her child ever took their first breath. Above her, the desert sky darkened, stars beginning to blink into existence. The world carried on, indifferent to her pain. But in that moment, Emma realized her old life had been ripped away. Her marriage, her trust, her illusions of security, all gone, left in the dust of Adrian's car. All she had now was the child inside her, the fragile heartbeat that gave her strength to keep breathing. And somewhere deep inside, buried beneath the ache of betrayal, a flicker of resolve sparked to life. If Adrian thought he could abandon her and their child to chase his freedom, he was wrong. She would survive. She would endure. She would find a way. For her baby. For herself. The gas station was silent except for the faint buzz of the neon lights, and the distant hum of insects in the darkening desert night. Emma sat hunched on the weathered wooden bench, outside the tiny convenience store. Her hands gripping her belly, rocking slightly as though her movement could calm the restless life within her. Her breath came in uneven gasps. Every nerve in her body was still screaming from the shock of what had just happened. He left me. He actually left me. The thought repeated itself like a cruel echo in her mind, each repetition cutting deeper. Adrian's car wasn't coming back. The man she had once trusted with her heart, the man she had built dreams with, had abandoned her like a piece of luggage he no longer needed. "Mom," the old attendant said softly, crouching down beside her. His rough, wool-stained hands reached out, not touching her yet, just hovering in case she needed support. His gray eyes brimmed with concern. "You're in no shape to be out here alone. Do you need me to call someone?" Emma shook her head weakly, then pressed her hands against her temples. I don't have my phone. It was in the car. My husband, he took everything." Her voice cracked on the word husband, tasting bitter now, like poison on her tongue. The old man pursed his lips, then stood slowly, his back stiff with age. "Hold on right here. I'll get you some water." Emma nodded faintly, too drained to argue, too hollow to even cry anymore. Her chest ached, her throat burned, and her baby's kicks grew more insistent. Sharp, panicked reminders of the little soul depending entirely on her strength. She closed her eyes and tried to steady her breathing. One inhale, one exhale. "Stay calm, Emma, you can't fall apart. Not now." But then, a sudden cramp twisted through her abdomen, sharp and deep. She gasped, clutching her stomach. Fear spiked instantly. Was it labor? Was it too soon? The door creaked open and the old man returned with a cold bottle of water. His weathered hands shaking slightly as he offered it to her. "Here, drink." Slowly, Emma unscrewed the cap with trembling fingers, took a small sip, then another. The cool liquid soothed her dry throat, but the pain in her abdomen didn't ease. She winced, trying to disguise it, but the old man noticed. "You're hurting," he said softly, a question in his tone. Emma's eyes filled again. She nodded, pressing her lips together. It's been happening since he left. I think it's stress, but what if?" She couldn't finish the sentence. The old man's expression hardened, not with anger at her, but with determination. He pulled a worn flip phone from his pocket and dialed quickly. "Clara, it's Dad. I need you to get over here, right now. There's a young woman, she's pregnant, maybe in labor. Bring your bag. Hurry." Emma blinked through her tears. Who are you calling?" "My daughter," he said firmly. "She's a nurse. Don't you worry, sweetheart, you're not alone anymore. We'll take care of you." Something inside Emma cracked then, not from pain, but from the warmth in his voice. A stranger, someone who owed her nothing, had more compassion in a single moment than her husband had shown her in months. Minutes dragged by like hours as Emma sat there, gripping the bench, trying to focus on the sound of the buzzing lights, rather than the pain rolling through her abdomen. The old man stayed close, his presence steady, occasionally murmuring soft words like, "Just breathe," or, "You're safe here." At last headlights appeared on the horizon, growing brighter until a modest sedan pulled into the station. A young woman in her late 20s jumped out, her hair tied back in a messy bun, scrubs still wrinkled from a long shift. She carried a worn leather medical bag and moved quickly toward them. "Dad, where is she?" "Here," the old man said, stepping aside. "Clara, this is Emma." The nurse crouched in front of Emma, her warm brown eyes scanning her face, then moving to her belly. "Hi, Emma. I'm Clara. Can you tell me what you're feeling?" Emma swallowed hard, trying to steady her voice. Cramping, typing, it started after she couldn't bring herself to say the words after my husband abandoned me. But Clara didn't press. Instead, Clara placed gentle hands on Emma's wrist, checking her pulse, then felt lightly at her abdomen. Your body's under stress, but your contractions aren't regular yet. That's good. You're not in full labor. But we need to get you somewhere safe to rest. Emma nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. I don't know where to go. I don't have. Clara squeezed her hand. You don't worry about that right now. You and your baby are what matter. My place isn't far, you can come with me, the old man added quickly. Yes, my daughter's got a spare room. You'll be looked after. No one's leaving you here, Emma. Not tonight, not ever. Emma's chest constricted, overwhelmed. She wanted to protest, to say she couldn't impose, but another contraction made her gasp. Clara steadied her instantly, rubbing her back. Breathe with me. In and out. That's it. You're doing amazing. For the first time since Adrian drove away, Emma felt something she thought was lost safety. As Clara and her father helped her carefully into the car, Emma looked once more at the long stretch of highway, where Adrian's taillights had vanished hours ago. The emptiness of that road no longer felt like the end. Instead, as the mechanic closed the door gently beside her, Emma realized it might be the beginning. She had been abandoned by the man who should have protected her most. But she had been found by strangers who cared, who stepped in when her world had collapsed. Her baby kicked softly, as if sensing the shift. Emma placed her hand over her belly and whispered, "We're going to be okay, I promise." And for the first time since being left at that lonely gas station, she almost believed it. The night air was cool and fragrant with the scent of hibiscus, as Adrian strolled through the grand entrance of the Azure Palms Resort. The marble lobby gleamed under crystal chandeliers. A haven of opulence nestled far away from the dusty gas stations and barren highways he had left behind. The valet had whisked away his car, and now Adrian carried himself with the swagger of a man who believed he had shed a burden. His burden was Emma. Or rather, that was how he justified it to himself. A woman swollen with child. A constant reminder of responsibilities he no longer wanted. Her quiet eyes pleading for affection he had long grown tired of giving. He told himself he deserved more than that. Deserved excitement, beauty, freedom. And so, he had driven away without hesitation, erasing her presence from his evening as easily as deleting an unwanted message. Inside the resort lounge, laughter spilled from groups of wealthy patrons, draped in designer clothes. A jazz band played softly in the corner, and waiters glided between tables with silver trays of champagne and cocktails. Adrian slid into the atmosphere seamlessly. As though he belonged to this world of indulgence more than to the quiet, expectant woman he had abandoned. Adrian. A voice called out, and he turned to see two of his business associates waving him over. Both men were sunburned from golf, their shirts open at the collar, glasses of whiskey already in hand. Adrian grinned, striding confidently to their table. "Gentlemen. It's been too long." They clapped him on the back, welcomed him into the plush velvet booth, and ordered another round of drinks. Soon the table was covered with gleaming glasses and platters of hors d'oeuvres. "To freedom," Adrian said, raising his glass. His companions chuckled. "Freedom from what?" one asked. Adrian smirked. He leaned back, stretching his arms across the booth. "From the ball and chain. My wife. 8 months pregnant, needy as ever. You wouldn't believe it. Always asking for help, always complaining. I finally did myself a favor and cut loose." The men laughed, though uneasily, glancing at one another. One of them muttered, "That's cold, Adrian." But Adrian was too caught up in his own bravado to notice their discomfort. He relished the sound of his own voice, the way it carried in the opulent lounge. "Don't get me wrong, she served her purpose. But I'm not built to be tied down to diapers and midnight feedings. I've got a life to live. Deals to close. Women to meet." He lifted his champagne flute in a mock toast to himself, savoring the bubbles. At a nearby table, a woman with sharp eyes and a notebook tucked discreetly in her bag watched the scene unfold. She was not a tourist or a wealthy guest. She was Lydia Hart, an investigative journalist known for exposing the dark secrets of the elite. She had been staying at the resort for another story altogether. But Adrian's words cut through the lounge noise like a siren. She angled her body just enough to catch his reflection in the gilded mirror behind the bar. His smug smile. His careless laughter. It was all fuel for a fire she knew the public would devour. A millionaire abandoning his heavily pregnant wife. It wasn't just scandalous. It was monstrous. Lydia's pen scratched across her notepad as she sipped her drink, every word of Adrian's boasting etched into evidence. Back at Adrian's table, the night grew louder, wilder. A group of younger women in glittering dresses drifted over, giggling as one slid beside him. Adrian welcomed the attention, his hand already resting lightly on her arm, his wedding band conveniently missing from his finger. Emma never crossed his mind. Not her swollen feet, not the baby pressing against her ribs, not her soft voice asking him to stay home with her during the long nights when she couldn't sleep. He had erased her. Rewritten himself as the carefree bachelor in a luxury resort, untethered, admired. And yet, beneath the music and laughter, the universe stirred. Because while Adrian soaked in champagne and false admiration, his reputation was quietly unraveling. His so-called friends whispered uneasily when he stepped away, their expressions dark. Some had wives, sisters, daughters, women they loved. Hearing him brag about leaving his pregnant wife at a remote gas station unsettled them deeply. And Lydia, in her corner, had already begun composing the opening lines of an exposé that would shatter his carefully polished image. For now, Adrian basked in ignorance, leaning closer to the woman beside him. Whispering promises of private parties and yacht trips. He didn't notice the way the staff watched him with quiet judgment, or how one waiter whispered to another. "Did you hear what he said? Left his wife pregnant and stranded." Word traveled fast in closed spaces, and judgment faster still. Hours later, when Adrian stumbled to his luxury suite, laughter still on his lips, the night outside was quiet. The stars cold above the ocean. He fell onto soap sheets, smug and satisfied, unaware that while he slept, his empire, his businesses, his social standing, his name, was beginning to crack. For the first time in his life, Adrian believed he had won. But what he couldn't see was that fate had already written the next act of his downfall. And while he celebrated at the peak of false freedom, Emma, abandoned at a lonely gas station, was being lifted up by strangers who would become her real family. The night had deepened by the time Clara's car pulled into the small farmhouse she shared with her father. The land stretched quiet and endless under a sky filled with stars. Cicadas chirped softly in the dark, and a lantern glowed warmly on the porch, as though it had been waiting just for Emma. Clara helped her out of the car, supporting her gently. Emma's steps were slow, her hand clutching her belly, her face pale with exhaustion. The ride had been rough on her body, each bump in the road seemed to stir her contractions further away. "You're safe here," Clara said firmly, her tone leaving no room for doubt. "Let's get you inside, sweetheart." The farmhouse smelled of wood and lavender, simple yet comforting. Clara led Emma to a tidy spare room with a quilted bed, while her father carried in extra pillows and blankets. Emma lowered herself onto the mattress with a shaky breath, tears pricking her eyes. Not from pain this time, but from the kindness surrounding her. She had never met these people until tonight, and yet they treated her like she mattered, like she wasn't a burden at all. "Rest," Clara urged, kneeling beside her. "I'll check you over." She pulled supplies from her bag, slipping into the calm efficiency of a nurse. She measured Emma's pulse, pressed gently at her abdomen, and listened to the baby's heartbeat with a handheld Doppler. The steady thump filled the quiet room. Emma exhaled shakily, tears spilling. "That sound, it's the only thing keeping me together." The Clara smiled softly. "Your little one's strong. You are too. Do you know that?" Emma looked at her, startled by the words. No one had called her strong in a long time. Adrian had only called her weak, clingy, emotional. Hearing the opposite from a stranger pierced through her despair like a beam of light. Another contraction rippled through her. Sharper this time. She winced, clutching the sheets. Clara instantly moved to her side. "Breathe with me. In through your nose, out through your mouth." She demonstrated slowly until Emma followed. Her shoulders loosening bit by bit. "Is it? Do you think it's really labor?" Emma asked, her voice trembling. Clara pressed her hand gently to Emma's swollen stomach. "It's early. But your body's under a lot of stress. Sometimes that's enough to trigger labor." We'll keep you safe, Emma. You're not alone in this. Her father entered then, carrying a steaming mug of chamomile tea. He set it carefully on the nightstand. For calming, he said, his voice gravelly but kind. He lingered for a moment, then added softly, "My wife. God rest her soul. She always said no woman should face childbirth in fear. You've got us now, miss. We won't let anything happen to you or that baby." Emma's throat tightened. She covered her mouth with her hand as sobs escaped. "Why are you both being so kind to me? You don't even know me." Clara reached over, squeezing her hand. "Because that's what people are supposed to do, Emma. We look after one another. That man who left you, he forgot that. But we haven't." The words wrapped around Emma like a blanket. She let herself cry, not the shattered sobs of abandonment, but the cleansing tears of release of feeling seen and valued after months of neglect. Hours passed in a rhythm of pain and calm. Contractions came closer, stronger. Clara remained at her side, coaching her through each wave, while her father boiled water, fetched towels, and set up everything they might need. The farmhouse became a makeshift birthing center, each corner infused with determination and quiet faith. At last, near dawn, Emma's cries filled the small room. Sweat glistened on her forehead, her hands clutching Clara's tightly. "I can't," she gasped. "I can't do this." "Yes. You can," Clara said fiercely, her voice steady. "You are doing it. Just one more push, Emma, for your baby." Emma closed her eyes, summoning every ounce of strength left in her battered body. She bore down, screaming, shaking, until suddenly, the air shifted. A tiny, piercing cry rose up, raw and new, cutting through the night like a hymn. Emma collapsed back against the pillows, tears spilling freely as Clara lifted the squirming newborn, wrapped him in a soft towel, and placed him gently on Emma's chest. The baby's skin was warm, his cries strong, his tiny fists waving blindly. Emma gasped, her heart splitting open. "Oh, my baby," her arms closed protectively around him, her lips pressing to his damp forehead. Her son, her miracle. The old man stood at the doorway, his eyes wet as he removed his cap and pressed it to his chest. Clara smiled, wiping her own tears. "He's perfect, Emma. Absolutely perfect." Emma's whole body trembled as she whispered to her child. "It's you and me now, sweetheart. Mommy's here. Mommy's never letting you go." In that fragile moment, the abandonment, the cruelty, the loneliness, all of it faded into the background. What remained was life, love, and the unexpected grace of strangers who had stepped in when she needed them most. Emma looked up at Clara and her father. "I don't know how to thank you. You saved us." The old man smiled gently. "No thanks needed. Just raise that little one with all the love you've got. That'll be thanks enough." Emma glanced down at her son, who had already quieted, nestled against her chest. His tiny breaths warm against her skin. A fierce determination filled her. She would give him the life he deserved, no matter what it took. The night that had begun in despair had ended in the light of new beginnings. Emma was no longer just a forsaken wife. She was a mother, and for the first time, she believed she was strong enough to stand on her own. Morning sunlight spilled through the thin curtains of the farmhouse. Soft and golden, warming the quiet room where Emma lay cradling her newborn son. His tiny chest rose and fell steadily, his hand curled around her finger, as though anchoring her to this new life. For the first time in months, she felt a calmness settle over her. A fragile but growing hope that whispered, "We're going to be okay." Clara slipped into the room with gentle steps, holding a tray of breakfast. "How's my little patient doing?" she asked with a smile. Emma smiled faintly, exhausted but glowing. "Sleeping like he knows he's finally safe." She brushed a kiss across her baby's soft hair. Her heart swelling. Clara set the tray down and perched on the edge of the bed. "Emma, I don't know if you've seen the news yet, but..." She hesitated, as if uncertain how much Emma wanted to hear the man who had abandoned her. Emma's stomach tightened. "Adrian." Clara nodded, pulling out her phone. "There's been an article. It's everywhere." Emma shifted carefully, curiosity and dread mingling in her chest. Clara showed her the headline glowing on the screen. "Millionaire mogul abandons 8 months pregnant wife at remote gas station. Eyewitnesses speak out." Beneath the bold letters was a photo of Adrian at the resort bar, champagne in hand, a smug grin on his face. The article detailed his drunken bragging, his cruel words about his wife. the whispers among resort staff, and the testimony of a journalist who had witnessed everything. Emma's breath caught. There it was. His betrayal laid bare for the world. Her private heartbreak now public truth. Clara touched her arm gently. It's spreading everywhere, Emma. His business partners are furious. Investors are already backing out. His reputation is collapsing. Emma looked down at her son, her fingers brushing his cheek. A strange mixture of grief and relief washed over her. She hadn't wanted revenge. What she had wanted was love, loyalty, family. But Adrian had thrown it all away. And now the world saw him for who he truly was. Later that afternoon, as Emma sat on the porch in the fresh air, rocking her baby in her arms, a car pulled into the driveway. Clara's father stepped out onto the porch, cautious. A man in an expensive suit emerged from the vehicle looking disheveled, his eyes hollow. Adrian. Emma's heart clenched, but she held her son closer, standing tall. Adrian's voice cracked as he approached. Emma, thank God I found you. Please listen to me. Her eyes hardened. Why are you here? He ran a hand through his hair, desperation seeping into his voice. Everything's falling apart. The press, my business, I lost contracts overnight, my so-called friends won't even answer my calls. Emma, I made a mistake, I was drunk, I was stupid, I wasn't thinking clearly. Please, just come back to me. We can fix this. Emma laughed softly bitterly. Fix this. She glanced down at the tiny bundle in her arms. Tell me. Adrian. Were you thinking clearly when you left your 8 months pregnant wife on the side of a road? Were you drunk when you sped away without a second thought? Or when you bragged about it to strangers? Adrian flinched, shame flickering in his eyes. I didn't know it would blow up like this. I thought. You thought no one would care. Emma finished for him, her voice steady. You thought I'd stay invisible, silent. But you were wrong. People care, they see me. They see us. She brushed her baby's cheek softly. And I don't need you anymore. His face twisted with desperation. Emma, please. I'll do better. For the baby. Emma's eyes burned as she cut him off. You don't get to speak about him. You forfeited that right when you abandoned us. He deserves a father who will fight for him, protect him, love him. Not someone who throws him away before he's even born. Tears gathered in Adrian's eyes, but Emma turned away, her heart no longer tethered to his pleas. Clara and her father stood nearby, watching protectively, ready to step in if needed. Leave, Adrian. Emma said firmly. Go back to your resorts. Your empty parties. That world is yours, this one mine. It's stronger without you. Adrian's lips trembled, but he saw the unshakable resolve in her eyes. Slowly, with a defeated slump of his shoulders, he turned and walked back to his car. The door shut with a hollow thud, and moments later, the sound of his engine faded down the road. Emma exhaled, tears streaming, not of weakness, but of release. For the first time, she was free. In the weeks that followed, the world rallied around her story. Women's foundations reached out, offering housing support, even legal aid to ensure Adrian could never harm her, or her son again. Donations poured in from strangers who had read about her bravery. And the farmhouse, once a place of refuge, became the start of a new life. Clara and her father became family, helping her raise her child. Teaching her that love isn't always bound by blood but by kindness. One quiet evening, as Emma rocked her baby to sleep on the porch, the sun sinking in hues of pink and gold, she whispered to him, You and I were left behind, my love. But being left behind led us right where we were meant to be. We're not broken. We're beginning. The baby sighed in his sleep, his tiny face peaceful. Emma smiled, her heart strong. Adrian had lost everything, undone by his cruelty. But Emma had found more than she ever imagined. Strength she didn't know she had, love in unexpected places. And the joy of a new family built not on wealth or power, but on compassion. And in that moment, with her child in her arms, Emma knew the truth sometimes. Being abandoned is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of freedom.